Hey, what up, everybody? Welcome to another core leadership concept. Today, I want to talk to you about how to not absorb other people's problems. It's kind of a shame, but if you're going to be walking around on this planet, you are going to encounter pain, and at times, it's going to be too much even for you. So today, I want to give you 2 tips of how to deal with the overload sometimes of other people's pain, and we're going to follow Jesus' example to do it. Are you ready? Let's get after it. Here's kind of an interesting thing about Jesus. Jesus alone could, on the most deep level, feel everybody's pain, and yet he didn't make himself responsible for it. Jesus had the ultimate capacity for empathy, and yet, because he was following the Father's will alone, he did not allow that empathy to deter him or keep him from exclusively doing the Father's will. You'll probably remember scriptures like Matthew 5:19. You'll remember other ones like Luke 22:42, where Jesus is exclaiming, "I only do what I see the Father doing." Now, if he was walking by multiple people that were sick, what we know about Jesus is he'd heal the one that the Father directed him to. Think about the rich young ruler in Mark chapter 10. Jesus wanted this young man to come and follow him, to be his disciple, and he made him the offer, "Hey, sell everything you've got and come follow me." And when this young man said no, and he turned away sad because he loved all of his stuff and he didn't want to, let Jesus be a rival to that. Jesus could have been like, "Nah, come on, man, really, for real, please, why don't you come with me?" He could have allowed the sadness that would come with knowing that that man was going to do life apart from him, could have overwhelmed him, but he didn't allow him to do that. He just said, "Well, that's too bad, but I'm going to allow you to make your own choices. You are going to go that way, and that's the way you're going to go." See, Jesus had a buffer between what he saw the Father doing and what he in his natural humanness would have tried to compel people to do. He could have been gripped by so much of the sorrow, so much of the depression of the world that he walked around in. And yet, he just said, "That's really none of my business. I care about that, but I'm going to do what the Father wants me to do." And you and I have got to be the same way. If we're going to do things for God, there's going to be times when we are so overwhelmed by the amount of pain that somebody's walking in. And it's true, we should have compassion for them. But God does not want us to shut down entirely and just carry the weight of the world on us all the time. If we allow ourselves to go there, we're going to be no use to anybody, especially to God. Why does God allow people to make decisions that are ultimately going to hurt them that then we're feeling really bad about? Here's part of the reason why, because God knows and Jesus knew during his time on earth that people loved evil. What does he say in John 3:19? He says, "The light has come into the world, but people loved darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil." He says, "I'm not going to take that away from them. If they choose to love darkness, if they choose to go after the ways of evil, I'm going to plead with them. I'm going to say, hey, no, come back away from there. But if they refuse to go there, I'm not going to lie down and be depressed about it. I'm going to say, hey, man, God has already given you enough. Like he declares his glory in the heavens. His voice goes out to all the earth. He's made it plain that he is. There's a Bible in every hotel room. Like if you don't want to listen to God, I wish you did, but there's nothing that I can do about it. I can love you. I can warn you relationally as is appropriate, but I'm not going to lose sleep over the fact that you deliberately don't want to do what God wants you to do. And that's going to be the case with us sometimes. We got to let ourselves off the hook a little bit. Even sharing the gospel. We need to share the good news of Jesus Christ. But if people don't want to hear it, man, hey, that's God himself gave you that freedom. So I'm going to do my best to not be a stumbling block. I'm going to explain it well. But if you still don't want to hear it, then you don't want to hear it. And I'm going to pray that another opportunity comes later when your heart is a little more soft. A little bit. Some of us, we have such a spirit of mercy. We have such a difficult time not really bleeding for people and caring about people that we haven't trained ourselves to say, okay, that's enough. I already know I care about you, but I can't stop you from making the poor decision that you're making or going through the hard time that you're going through. The question I need to ask myself really is, what does God want me to do? I mean, that's really what I've got to keep my eyes on, because that's what Jesus kept his eyes on, was what is the Father showing me I'm supposed to do? So as long as you've asked the Father and he's not directing you to do anything else, dear heart, you can just let it go. You can just say, there's plenty of other people to help. I need to look to the Father and say, who are they? And maybe it's not this one anymore. Let's not allow our hooks to get in other people's stuff so much that we become paralyzed and can't move on. Hey, listen, that's God's business. Like, God will send somebody else at some point, or they'll experience the repercussions, or he'll discipline. We don't know. That's none of our business. As for us, we need to recognize when someone's just not open, and we need to move on. I think it's important for us to remember too that Jesus in 3 years was able to do all that the Father asked him to do. He said, I've finished the work that the Father gave me to do. Think about that, man. There was so much that he could have done. He could have gone around the world. There's so many different people he could have met that were really in pain. And he didn't, though. He said, that's not my job. Even though right then in his time people were suffering, he said, my job is to do this, to help these few people and then to die for the sin of the world. If Jesus can do all of God's will in 3 years, you and I can also do all of God's will in the years we have left. That doesn't mean that all that there is to do will be done. It just means that we'll do all that we were supposed to do. So again, what is the question? The question is, hey God, you've primarily called me to be someone who loves and pursues Jesus Christ, and then to love and pursue others around me. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be able to help everybody or reach everybody. And obviously we can let ourselves off the hook of stuff that God actually wants us to do. And we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is protecting our emotional margin and saying, if I allow everything to just weigh me down so that I'm so depressed myself because of other things that other people are going through, I'm no good to God. What I need to do maybe instead is have some more meditation time, because that's where we refill up on God's word. Hey man, if you're just bleeding out about everybody all the time, draw away from some of that. Don't make yourself responsible for that which God hasn't made you responsible. And be responsible for your own personal emotional tanks. Refill back up so that you have any love to share with anybody else, any goodness from God's word. Spend more time meditating, more time reflecting, more time in prayer, and even asking questions and asking others for feedback. Who should I be helping here? Like, here's my priorities that I think, but maybe I'm spread way too thin. Maybe there's other people God would send to some of these places, and I need just to narrow my focus so that I can be the most effective for God. It doesn't mean you're not compassionate, you're not Christian, you don't love people. It actually means, like Jesus, you're most concerned about the Father's will. We only do what we see the Father doing. And obviously that's a lifelong discipline, practice, trying to learn how to do that. But I just want to let some people off the hook and encourage you to let yourself off the hook. Listen, where we really are going to get our praise is from God. And so we've got to seek Him, what exactly calling me to do. And then I'm going to give myself to that with all my heart. But I'm not going to allow all the needs that I can possibly hear suck me down, drag me down, and just keep me depressed all the time. I'm going to pray for it. I'm going to give it back to God. And then I'm going to let go in my heart and say, my good sovereign God has it under control. That is your core leadership concept for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. If you like this video, make sure that you hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.